There's something magical about the desert. Being in a landscape like this can feel like walking on an alien planet. There's almost something spiritual about it. So when you have a place like this to build a home, what do you construct that fits into this environment? Well, today we've traveled to a community in California to find out. Hey Sasha, how are you?
Hello, welcome.
Lovely to meet you. G'day John, how are you?
Bryce, nice to meet you.
And wonderful to see your beautiful home. What a masterpiece you've created here.
Thank you.
Before we talk about the house, I just want to say, wow, this landscape is incredible.
We feel very lucky to live here.
Now this house is actually part of a community here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The community's been here for about 12 years. There's about 15 of us living out here, mostly full-time.
And this is a permaculture community which happens to be taking place in the desert. This is a very complex and challenging landscape to be doing that in.
Yes, it is.
We're fortunate to have a spring up canyon, and we irrigate our crops with the spring water. Our animals drink from it. Makes things a little bit easier. It's some of the only surface water in this region.
What a valuable asset. And the gardens that you have created around your home are so beautiful.
Thank you. We enjoy it. We have a larger, farm garden down below, but it's really nice just to have a little bit growing right here. That's like kind of our little kitchen garden.
And then you've got the wood fire tub here as well, and outdoor fire, and some of the beautiful cob walls.
Yeah, the cob walls we actually built this spring with a workshop of students that we had out here. And the little wood-fired hot tub, rocket stove style, we built with a little internship we had out here. Same with the little fireplace out there. Like pretty much all of the elements, there's been students that have come in and participated in some part of that.
And Sasha, you actually built this home yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, I did mostly, and with a lot of help. As John was saying before, we have a lot of different workshop groups come through and just different volunteers. So I have been the main builder on it, and thanks to the help of many, many hands. And then John's been living here for about 3 years with me, and he's been adding on many nice little elements and details as well.
Yeah, that is one thing that all earth building has in common, isn't it? The need for multiple people to get stuck into the project because they are so labor intensive.
Yeah, they're very labor intensive and very low cost for the building materials. So you have, a lot of labor and not a lot of expense, or you can, have more expense and less labor. It's sort of a trade-off there. And many people are drawn to this form of building because it is so cheap as far as the materials go, and you make up for it with labor, absolutely.
And this home is so beautiful. Is this cob construction?
This house is a combination of just about every different system we could imagine. So there's some cob, there's some earth bag, there's some adobe, there's some wattle and daub, and all of those systems are different ways of working with the same basic materials, which is clay soil from our site here, and sand, also from our site here, and some kind of fiber. And in this case, it's straw. And that's really the only material that obviously there's other materials we've imported, but as far as the basic wall system. So yeah, it uses a variety of different earthen building techniques.
And it looks like it's all been constructed around this really interesting geodesic structure.
Yeah, we had this old geodesic dome where the canvas had long since eroded away, and we just had this geodesic dome frame sort of floating around the land for a while, and I had this idea that it would just be this really simple way to build a house, was basically take the geodesic dome frame and then sort of cover it with kind of wattle and daubish type thing, and it really was going to be simple. And then I realized that one of the things I really don't like about those geodesic dome frames is that the doorway you have to kind of really crouch to get under. So I said, well, I want to raise it up a bit, and I want ventilation on the top. So as just projects do, it got more and more elaborate and complicated.
And what size is the home?
It's a little hard to measure it exactly because of its unusual shape, but it's about 430 square feet.
And I see your solar array over there, so are you completely off the grid here?
Yeah, this whole property is completely off the grid, and we just have very small little solar systems at each individual house, and we have a bigger one for power tools and such down at the communal area.
Well, the home is absolutely beautiful. It's such an intriguing design, and I'm very excited to see what you've done on the inside. Can we take a look?
Absolutely.
Sure,
Come
let's
on
come on
in.
in.
Thank you very much. One of the things that I really love about Earthen homes is how they just can incorporate all of these really unique shapes.
Yeah, they really lend themselves well to just sculpting things into all sorts of different shapes.
And immediately walking into this house, we are greeted by this rocket stove. Tell me about this.
Yeah, so a rocket stove is a sort of a DIY style of a masonry heater. It has a secondary burn chamber, so it burns the smoke. So it's incredibly efficient, incredibly clean burning. The flue pipes go through the bench, so the bench is all warm as well in the winter when this is running.
So in the winter time, we'll just light the fire, sometime before dinner. Usually just light it once. Sometimes we'll stoke it a second time, before going to bed, and wake up in the morning, the bench is still warm and it's still providing some warmth for the rest of the space.
And then over here we have your dining space and kitchen area.
Yeah.
This is definitely where we spend the majority of our time.
Right here on the bench.
Especially with the amazing view.
Yeah, and we have a larger communal kitchen down below that's shared with about 20 people, and this is our it was sort of a design-in process, but this was originally going to be greenhouse out here, but as soon as we sort of framed in this area, it felt really clear that the kitchen just needed to be right here. So it's super simple. We didn't have a fridge for a while, but we just upgraded our solar to be able to fit a little bit of small little fridge in here, and it has everything we need. I mean, I think one of the really beautiful parts about building a house with your hands and hand making everything is that then when it comes to the things in your house, you also end up wanting everything to be handmade. And so we are blessed to have our kitchen adorned with so many amazing things from so many talented friends, and all of our bowls and pottery and even hand-forged knife from a friend. And yes, it always feels very inspiring to sort of have what fills the house be all stuff made by friends and get to showcase off all of their beautiful work as well.
So here in the community, do you tend to have nightly communal meals?
We do dinner with the whole community most nights, and then we also do dinner up here fairly often too, just when you don't feel like interacting with a bunch of people.
And then I notice you have no bathroom in here, so do you share communal facilities down there as well?
Yeah, we have a communal bathhouse down below.
And one of the things that I really love about earth building, and that you've done so well in this, is these beautiful bottle walls throughout the home. They're such beautiful features.
Yeah, it's a fun way to allow in some light.
Not as much fun to plaster, but for those of us that are really into the details, it's still enjoyable.
And then this wall here, this is actually the outer edge of the geodesic structure that's hidden under all of this, right?
Yeah, the geodesic dome structure is resting at about this height.
Right.
You can see some of the poles when we go inside. This part of the wall is earth bag up to about here.
Well, can we take a look at what's happening inside the dome area?
Absolutely.
This is very sweet. This very much feels like walking right into the heart of the home.
Yeah.
And look at that fire.
I really like fire, so we have the rocket stove in there for really winter when you're really needing to heat a space. And then we have a lot of times in the year around here where it's maybe just a little chilly, but you don't need to fire up the whole rocket stove. And so we have this Rumford fireplace that's for more of the times where it's just to take the chill off a little bit.
For the size of the home, 2 fireplaces might be a little bit of overkill.
This is mainly, it's nice, like if we're in here crafting or if we have some friends over and have a small little gathering up here or something, it's just a nice little ambiance. But oftentimes when this is running, it gets a little too warm for me up in the loft.
And then you've built a lot of storage into this room as well?
Yeah, we have storage kind of tucked into every nook and cranny. We have dressers and storage under here and storage in the stairs and storage under the bench. Plenty of places to tuck little things.
The window designs in here as well are very interesting.
Yeah, the geodesic dome frame kind of dictated the shape of the windows. And then, just as I was saying before in our kitchen, once you get into these kind of shapes, you have to hand make everything because there's not standard windows for that. Yeah, so we made all the windows to fit within the shape of the geodesic dome frame.
And you mentioned that you both like to do a lot of crafting in here as well.
Yeah, I do a lot of woodworking and carving, and Sasha gets into just about anything fiber arts related. And
Yeah, I was just given my mom's spinning wheel here, so I've been learning to spin and felting and natural dyeing, and I do a bunch of beadwork and some sewing. Yeah, it's a big part of our culture out here is a lot of people who love to just make things with our hands and variety of different things.
And then we've got your sleeping loft up here. That just looks like such a neat space.
John built these beautiful stairs a couple years ago, and it feels like you're kind of climbing up a tree into bed, which is lovely. And John gets the outside of the bed, and so far he hasn't fallen off.
That's good to know.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, outside, all those windows up there in the cupola open up to allow for ventilation up there, so it stays nice and cool.
And so how long have you been living in this home now?
I've been living in here about 6 years, and I did move in when it was fairly unfinished. So it's been more finished for about 4 or 5 years, and John moved in 3 years ago.
Living in community, this is something that I feel that in our society, a lot of us have lost skills for communal living. How are you finding that working for you both?
I think one aspect that works really well for us is to have a self-sufficient house so that going down to the commons is a choice. It's not something you have to do. No one's required to show up at any meals. There's very little that's required in that way. One of the things I really love about it is to be able to live in such a remote environment and yet still be able to have really wonderful social interactions and connections and have access to the mountains and canyons to go hike in. We also have, since we have so many different educational programs and volunteers, we have a lot of people coming through, which helps as well so that you don't get lonely out here. And the community part takes work too. It takes a dedication to wanting to continue to work together.
And so do you both work full-time here in the permaculture gardens and within the community?
We run the natural building program here at Quail Springs, and we work mostly here, and then we also do some other off-site projects as well, but mostly here.
Now, I know you mentioned before, when it comes to the building of an earthen home, it can be a lot cheaper when it comes to the materials, but there's a lot of labor involved. Can I ask about the cost that was involved in constructing your home here?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a hard one to answer because it's been over so many years, but my guess would be that the materials are somewhere between $15,000 and $18,000. One of the beauties of earthen building is that the actual hard costs are very low. And I think right now with housing, one of my big desires with this work is to figure out how to be able to help people build more of their own shelter. And of course, the biggest obstacle is access to land, but I think housing should be a human right. And it was not all that long ago here in this country where you could buy a piece of land and build a home for your family. And we can't do that anymore. It's not legal, and we don't have as much of a ability to house ourselves anymore. And I think that one other aspect of most earthen buildings is that they are a living system. They aren't intended to be finished and not touched for 50 years until their lifespan is done and then it gets torn down to the landfill. They need constant tending. And if they're tended well and taken care of, these structures can last hundreds of years. For me, a lot of it too is about having a relationship to my home and to have it be something that I do interact with.
Building with earth, that's something that was very commonplace and still is very commonplace in many parts of the world. But in this country, we've really gotten away from that. So it's just very empowering to have the opportunity to build your own home.
Well, the home that you have created here is just so beautiful. I think it's really inspiring that you're also so involved with the education and advocacy for building earthen homes. Thank you so much for sharing your space with me.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you, it's my pleasure. One of the things that I love about natural buildings is that they just have this unparalleled sense of coziness. Walking into a house like this is a lot like walking into a living piece of art. What Sasha and John have constructed here is something very special. And more than that, they're sharing their knowledge and their wisdom with the world, helping others who want to do this to achieve it for themselves. And that really is a gift.
And our seeds will start to shake that ground. Made a little earthquake when we sent our roots down. Little body take shape and take stock of the day. We made you so say that ground is better off that way. We made you so say your imprint's gonna be so great. So sang until there was no sound. Oh, and they sang until there was no sound. Oh, and they sang until there was no sound.